decided that we were gonna do another one of these scenes because one of the things I noticed is that it was kind of tricky for people to create soft edges in watercolor, particularly in the sky. So you'll notice, although there's fairly dramatic shifts in value, right? Wow, right, where's Olga? Where's everybody? Well, anyway, this will be recorded. There are fairly dramatic shifts in value, like this is a fairly light value, this is a fairly dark value, that these aren't like hard edges, right? There's still a little bit of softness to them. So one of the things I wanted us to practice, so I want you to take out a practice piece of paper, and before we do this, I want you to do a little practice. I am going to clean up my palette here because it's dirty from last week. So I'm just taking a little bit of paper towel and water and taking all the color off so that I can remix my colors and not have them mix with what's already there. I may have to replenish a couple of these, but we'll see. I think at the moment we're fine. And I want you to mix two colors. I want you to mix, I'm going to do this with my brush here. I want you to mix a kind of darkish blue purple, a muddy purple that includes ultramarine blue if you've got it, or blue, and then a cool red if you have it. So a scarlet, or I'm using quinacridone red here, and a touch of yellow ochre or gamboge. And I want you to make a color with a lot more blue in it. I don't know if you can see here. I'm like creating a very dark color with these three colors, red, blue, and yellow. If you use a cool red, like a scarlet or a crimson or a quinacridone red, you're going to get a richer purple. Otherwise, it'll look muddy, but for this exercise, it's okay. I'm going to test this up here. Okay. And then I'm cleaning off my brush. Here, I'll show you. I'm dipping my brush in water, and I'm cleaning it off with a paper towel, dipping it in water again, and then I'm going to mix an orange with a bit of red and a lot of yellow. Any yellow, whatever yellow is the orangiest. I'm using cadmium red, which is a warm red. So I want you to have these two colors. Now, even if they dry on your watercolor palette, you can just put paint on them. Okay. And then on your practice sheet of paper, I want you to practice creating soft edges between your purple and your orange. So notice I've laid these next to each other using a fairly, a medium-sized brush. And then I'm trying different techniques to see how I can create a soft edge between them. So I want, it's a little bit troublesome here because I'm working upright. If you're working flat, you shouldn't have this problem. So what I want is a dark light transition, right? Like from here to here.
Ah, you had muddy feet. Let me sit on my painting.
Oh, bad kitty. So I want there to be a transition, right? I want my transitions to be, and I want you to practice what happens when you do a wet on wet transition, right? And I'm noticing that this is way light, so I'm gonna have to mix another set of, I'm gonna have to mix another thing of purple, and when it dries, I'm gonna need to go back in, right? So notice this might take a couple of layers. I still want that dark to light transition, but what I don't want is this And I don't want this stiff, right? I don't want a hard edge like that. I want my edge to be softer. So I want you to practice while still maintaining my values. So I want you to practice. Kind of notice I'm kind of tapping in here while I'm adding a little bit more paint with water, maybe running across on the side. I want you to practice how you will complete. I'm going to come back in here on this one. So give yourself a few practice swatches. Maybe I use a little bit less water. Or maybe I use a little bit more. A little bit of more water to create a soft transition. Because that the clouds, even though they have a kind of a softer edge, they're not so raggedy. So you still want this dark to light drama. But what you want as we start to build up these layers is a real a softer edge. And this is hard. I'm not saying this is easy. That's why I'm like, let's practice it a little bit before we decide to add anything in, before we decide to actually paint this. And go ahead and send me some pictures as you guys kind of like. So here's what's interesting. I am working on an upright desk, right? So that means if I work wet, my paints kind of drip into each other. That's not hurting me in this particular case. Can you see that? Some of these little drips coming down and wrecking that strong shape.
Sorry, Leah, which were the colors for the orange again?
How do you make orange?
Red and yellow, and I don't know. I thought you some specific.
Not don't worry about that. I mean, use warm colors, Linda.
Okay.
If you have them, but I want you to be mixing a little bit, but mostly concentrating on light dark, right? How do I make that transition?
Okay.
How do I create that sense of cloud, this sense of, see how soft these reflections are. There's a few areas that they're hard, but there are these soft transitions that we're going to be really playing with today.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, Anik, starting to get, yep, starting to get there. The challenge, so Anik, I'd like to see you build up your darks here, right? On the next layer, wait till it dries, and then I'd like to see you get a little bit darker if you can. And that means often more than one layer on your dark, right? You'll often have to go 2 or 3 layers on your dark. Do you guys know what I mean when I say the difference between a hard and a soft edge? Let me review that quickly, just for anybody who might be new. There are 2 types of edges in drawing and painting. And one of them is, and when I say an edge, I mean where a light area meets a dark area, where a subject meets a background, right? Where like trees meet the sky. All of these are edges where things change, where there's a transition. And there are 2 types of edges. There is this type of edge. Darker. There we go. There is what we call a hard edge. This is a hard edge. Can you see that there is a very straight line? This is a hard edge. Hard edge. Nope. I have a whole series of pens that sort of work. That's a hard edge, right? And then there's a soft edge, where the edges kind of blend into each other. There is a transition from red to blue. But it's a little bit sort of more raggedy, sort of softer. Maybe it looks like this. And it depends on where you see the difference between them. So with all of our mediums, we are evaluating what's a hard edge and what's a soft edge. So on this picture, for example, can anybody tell me where a hard edge is? Can you identify one?
I'm sorry. The one on the right.
The horizon?
Yeah, horizon, I agree. Where this dark bit meets the sky and the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great, Rashmi, wonderful. Welcome, sweetie, good to see you. We were wondering where you are. I was like, where's Rashmi?
I was facing internet issues, sorry.
Where's the soft edge?
In the water,
Where in the water is there a soft edge?
where the meet, where the dark and light meet.
Where, like here? Yeah.
Yes.
Where else is there a soft edge?
The clouds as well, and there's shadow in
Well,
water.
yeah, and also a bit the trees, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much everything here, the bad news, pretty much everything in this painting is soft edges. There's one or two hard edges, but mostly everything is soft. And soft edges are tricky in watercolor because watercolor dries so fast. So this is what I want you to practice. Oh, hi, Tosh. Nice to see everybody today. This is what I want you to practice. Here, I'm going to take a picture of this so you can kind of tell the difference. Got a hard edge and a soft edge label. And edges are often defined not only by hardness or softness, but also by a contrast difference, meaning one color is lighter and one is darker. We can't really, there are edges in here, but we can't really see them because everything's dark, right? So the edges kind of disappear, but where the edges show up is where dark meets light. So edges are important, dark and light is important, and soft and hard is important. You'll notice in any good painting, and I'm really learning this, here, hold on. I'm really learning this anew as I watched Carista Trask teach abstract art, is that although even in abstract art and in figurative art, if you have edges, soft and hard, and soft and hard edges and big contrast is very important in all compositions, whether you are painting something that looks like something or whether you're painting something that isn't. So if you have an abstract piece that does not have any hard edges, that's problematic. If you have a soft, if you have a representational piece, like we're going to do today, a sunset with no hard edges or soft edges, it's all soft edges or it's all hard edges, that's also problematic. It's too much the same. It does not really like kind of mimic life. So that's where I'm wanting you guys to practice a little bit. And it's not, soft edges aren't really easy. Tosh, not bad. So now, Tosh, your challenge is to maintain the darkness in your soft edge. So you're going to want to go back into your dark and layer it more on and continue to maintain that soft. That's good. But we also need to maintain the contrast, right? Because look at that. This is a soft edge and look at how it comes against this light. So that's, you know, I like to think of painting. There you go. That's starting to come together. Nice job, Tanya.
Thank
So,
you.
Annika, I know this is going to be, which ones are your, I can't really see because there's reflections.
Oh, okay. I'll try and take. There was the flash came on. I don't know why.
Ones, tell me which is light and which is your soft and which is your hard. So, Annika, one of the things I know about your work is that it's very defined by hard edges.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not telling you to get rid of them all more than most, because that's your mark making style. But I want you to be aware that you've got to really work to soften in areas.
Yeah. I haven't really. They're all bad, actually.
Yeah, good job, Addie. Good job. Nice.
Thank you.
Great. Is that making sense, this idea? So I want to just practice it for a bit, fill up a sheet of paper. And I'm going to go check on my boy. I will be right back.
No fighting.
Fint. Okay.
Out to play. It's gonna be a bad idea. Oh, it's gonna be a bad idea.
All right. Let's see. So Rashmi, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Tosh. Nina, not bad. I'm going to so your hard edges are looking good. So what I want you to do is you need to build up your darks and your soft edges. So that's the challenge, right? Linda, nice. See how Linda has these very strong dark edge, sorry, over here. See how she's got these, regardless of whether she's hard or soft, like she's got these very strong, the dark is much darker than the light. Nice job, Linda.
So, Leah, I'm working on a Diaz face, but it just turned out I was doing the grisaille while you were talking about edges. So I tried to do that.
Good.
I'm going to send it to you.
Good.
Challenge.
Tina, I would say the same. Addie also has done a really good job of maintaining a soft edge, but having a strong, dang it. See this? This is Addie's, this is dark. And then we have the kind of lighter, right? We definitely have a light to dark, a dark to light thing going. So the challenge with watercolor is you often have to go in several times. You'll have to wait till it dries and you'll have to go over. I've done this, let's say I've gone in twice now. Let's see what happens when I go in a third time. My dark. And then you have to maintain your edges, right? You gotta maintain them. So if I come in a third time, I still have to kind of keep that. I want to make sure I maintain this feeling of soft edges, kind of a ruffly. I might use more water. Might need a little bit more water. Now, if we were working with acrylic or oil, this is a lot easier because each side will stay wet and you kind of blend wet into wet. But with watercolor, we don't have that luxury. So, right, it dries too fast. You're constantly having to kind of re-blend in. It's okay if there's this little medium strip here as it goes from light to dark, right? That's okay. But you see how, because this is the kind of contrast that we're trying to go for. You still want this feeling, you don't want this. We don't want this, right? I'll do it on this half. We don't want this because that's not what's really happening. It's softer. Often there's a tapping. I'm using the corner of my brush right now. I'm using a little bit more water. See that feeling? It's funny. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm working up and letting some of those drips come down into my hard edges. I think this turned out really well. Now, I can't always control how that's going to go. Sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it goes not so well. But this is what I want you. So before we get into the drawing, who's that, Addie? We have another little doggy here. Here.
This is my puppy, Harry. He's a
Oh, it's sweet.
Hold on. Oh, look at that face.
Oh my God.
How old is Harry?
she's I think 5.
Nice.
It's adorable.
Really.
Yeah, have those
Full
ears.
grown, so
Is she a schnauzer or is she a soft-coated?
he's a mini schnauzer.
Oh, schnauzer.
She's so mellow.
I mean, oh,
The ears.
If anybody wants to introduce their pet, I will totally add you as a spotlight so you can all meet. That is part of our painting process. So to spend just a little bit more time working out this concept before we start the drawing here. Now I'm working in a 5x7 format, so I can go fairly quickly. You could go bigger. You could use a whole sheet of paper, but notice it's going to take you a lot longer. So this is the kind of thing that I think expressively would look great, small or big. Take just a couple more minutes, just like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll get into the actual sketch. Yeah, and more important, Raj, you want to build up that dark. So as soon as this gets dry, you're going to add another layer.
Okay.
Right? Because right now you can see that these are pretty much the same. As well, you're starting to get there. You're starting to get to a dark light. But look at this is what the clouds look like. See that? What the clouds look like.
Yeah.
So that's this is the thing. Anyway, this is where we're going because that's what's happening here, right? It's not a light thing. So I noticed with almost everybody's paintings that when we got to the sky part, that people struggled with it. And it's normal because this is a really hard thing to do, particularly in watercolor. So that's why I wanted to practice it first conceptually before we get into the actual painting itself. I'm hoping this is helpful.
Did you say that it's better to go from dark to light or light to dark? Like when you're
I think you need to experiment. In this particular case, because you're building up your darks, you're more likely to be going dark to light.
okay.
Right? Because you're going to have to go in like 3 or 4 times to build your dark to the level that you want. So those of you who want to, you can totally start your sketch. Let's see. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to, don't rush into this. So notice a couple things about this composition. It is not exactly halfway. What do we know about, so our horizon line, which is here where the natural, where the water meets the land, meets the sky, right? That's a little bit higher than halfway. So when you lay your first line in, there we go. Right, you want to bring it up. So I'm going to have a little bit less sky in mine and more water. You can decide to bring it a little bit up, a little bit down. And then I'm sketching in the pieces that I'm going to paint. This one, this one, and then there's like this little, oops. Sharpen my pencil. So I'm doing this quickly. I don't want you guys to rush this. Okay, I don't want you to rush this. I'm doing this quickly so I can lay this down. You can watch it happen. But I want you to take the time, whatever the time it needs. Please don't try to catch up with me. So there's this. There's like this island with these trees. And this comes up like this. Oh, I just kind of run out a little bit. And then below the island, there's this reflection. I'm not trying to get all of the vagaries of this reflection right now. I'm just trying to get the overall light dark transitions happening. So about here, the reflection, the land and the sky, you can't really see the difference. Over here, there's a little bit of a little bit better. There's a couple of tree trunks. And then down here, I want to get some transitions. I'm kind of sketching in the darkest areas. Oh, right, and this comes into here, which means this comes down. And this kind of goes at an angle. Kind of sketching in the darker areas. I'm going to have a little bit less dark because I pushed my painting up a little bit higher. And then for everything about down here is dark. Then there's kind of a medium in between these darks. And then we have a light. Yes, and we have a little bit of a reflection here. A little bit of a reflection here. And then up here, we have these cloud shapes. Right? So I'm kind of, what I'm trying to do is really preserve the areas that are going to stay light. Means I kind of outline the dark. Do this. I'll send a picture across of how this looks. So you can see I simplified a little bit, which I encourage you to do if you want to. Tosh, that's good. Good, Rosh. Annika, you're getting there. It's just not natural for you. So you're gonna have to push yourself.
It looks like a chocolate eclair.
Yeah, and so just keep, look a little bit, even your rounded edges look a little bit straight. They have a kind of symmetry to them. So I'm going to send you this one. And I know this because this is very particularly, look at this. Take a look at that edge.
Yeah.
See how it goes up, it goes down. I just know that this is not something that you naturally do. So soft edges are hard for you. Now, for the most part, you can use hard edges. So it's not to say that, but everybody needs soft and hard edges in their paintings. So more or less, you've got to start pushing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a drawing question.
Yeah.
Is there any rules about reflections and in terms of like
Draw,
is it-
like everything else, draw the shape around it, and then we'll deal with it, right?
is it usually the same size as
Okay,
that?
so I want you to look at the shape. No, it's not usually the same size, right? Don't try to get analytical like that. Just look at the shape. Here, I'll put this up because I think the color is confusing you. The basic rule of drawing, Tosh, is look at the shape. The thing, right? So don't get more complicated than that. Right? So here's your, right? So over here, this is the shape of that shadow. Here, this is the shape of that shadow. Just try and get in the shapes of the shadow. Here, I'll send this in. You know, you're making me think of, I know what you're doing. You're like, I'm trying to figure out what the rule is here. So, right? So I can figure it out. I'm going to send this over to you so you can see these. And here's a great, I think I've told you guys this already, of my student Bob, who is very left brain guy. And here's my sketch, by the way. Very left brain guy. So I told him once that on average, an adult human body is like three to four heads, right down if you were to measure. And then that the lower half is 3 to 4 heads. So we were drawing a figure that was crouched over, and he ended up giving me this thing that looked like a circus clown. I mean, it was insane. And I'm like, what did you do? He's like, I had to fit, even though she was bent over, I had to fit 4 heads, and you know, her body had to be 4 heads down on the top and 3 heads down on the bottom. He's trying to make a rule, but that's not the rule. The rule is when somebody's standing up straight at you, that might be the generalization, but the real rule is look at the shape and try to mimic it. So if you think that there's a rule for shadows, or you know what I mean, just look at the shapes and you'll start to see them. That's the real simple.
That's helpful. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, like, it's just the thing. It's like a mental, it's a left brain attempt to try and logicize your way out of something. And it doesn't, the logic is completely illogical when you try to apply it to left brain, to the right brain. Just doesn't, it doesn't compute.
Leah,
Yes.
is the horizon at the middle of the page, or is it just a little above?
What do you think? Look at it and tell me.
I think it's a little above, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's
And-
like 60-40, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And in general, do we ever put the horizon line at the middle of the page? Ever? Do we ever do that? Never,
I don't know.
never. Okay, so here's a rule for you. Never put your horizon line at the middle of the page. At the middle. Because that creates a static composition. So never do we ever do that. So even if your horizon line is there, you're going to bring it up or below or above. And if you want to emphasize the sky, you're going to bring your horizon line below the, right? Like below the middle. And if you want to emphasize the water, you're going to bring it above.
Yeah.
But never, ever. So there's a good rule for you. Never, ever put your horizon line in the center. Composition.
Because it's the rule of a 2/3, Leah, but
Yeah, it's because we're dealing with a flat piece of paper, right? So, and it's creating a pattern that isn't actually visible when we're looking at the composition. So even though you're only doing a portion of this, you still, that regularity creates, it bumps against the eye, it doesn't look natural. So one of these days, I'm going to get somebody, perhaps me, to lecture on composition. But that is the one rule that's really easy to know. And the rest is look at the shapes. There's the other. So once you practice this enough, go ahead and get your dark and light sketch down. I know it's so, I just still can't understand why it's so hard to see the sketching. I don't like making my pencil lines so dark. We'll do it for you guys. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Addie, that looks pretty good. It may take you a while because it's a little bit bigger, so you're going to want to use a bigger brush. Good job, you guys. By the way, I'm appreciating, I'm sorry, I have to say before, I'm liking, I think you're starting to get it in here. This is neat. So you'll see there's some, I actually like all of these, Nina, because I feel like there's textures that you're creating, right, that are different depending on what you're painting. I like a little bit how this is a softer, so this blend at the top here is going to be really good when you go from dark to medium, right? There's like a medium. It's nice. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I love watercolor. Yeah.
Yeah, so really, so notice that this blend is, and here is going to be a little different than what's happening here.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, just keep practicing on it. It's good. Let's see, Tosh. Yeah, that looks good. So if you're working on a bigger sheet of paper, I'm gonna recommend, this is the brush I use. I'm gonna recommend you use this brush or bigger, even bigger. Maybe a brush like this. Because you're gonna be doing a lot of broad stroke painting. So the bigger your brush. So with a smaller brush, you'll see every mark. So a bigger brush, and I'll show you how big my biggest watercolor brush is. You guys want to see this? It's huge. Hold on. Look at this thing.
Oh, wow. That's to paint for walls, Leah.
Right? So this is really good. What's the reason we go for a bigger brush is that if I'm trying to paint a dark area like this and I'm using a little brush, I won't be able to get a smooth surface, right? I'm gonna see the little marks where the brush hits the paper and the mark ends. So the bigger the brush for things like this, the better. If you had a bit, I'll try to use it at the very beginning. I'll just see what I can do with this one. This is a little small for what we want to do, but let me see what I can do just to show you the difference. Yeah, it looks good. Looks good, Raj. I mean, we have flexibility here. The shapes are not so, right, complex. It's really about edges and values and color mixing. There's sort of brushwork. Really, like what's happening is right in here, it's light. Yep, great, 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 great. Right, so in this sector, yeah, in a weird way, this is kind of divided into thirds. I mean, loosely. You can see that this third is fairly dark with a little bit of medium, and this third is like medium to light with dark tops inside. And then this again, this last third, this top third is dark to medium. So you're gonna see that, like, you know, these different areas. Yeah, I'm gonna try and use this thing. We'll see if it works. You can laugh at me if it doesn't. I'll go light. And I think I'm also gonna, while you guys are finishing your drawing, I'm gonna replenish a little bit more blue, a little bit more yellow. You know, this is a lot like last week. So you're going to want to give yourself all your yellow variations, all your reds. If you have an orange, put that out too. Then we're going to be mixing a kind of bluish purple. So you're going to want your reds and your blues. I know I'm generally a kind of a hard ass on color, but at this, for something like this, we've got flexibility. I'm learning to be flexible based on what you actually have. I really like the I like the language differences in burnt sienna. Burnt sienna in English sounds sort of boring, but Tierra de Sienna Brûlée sounds way better. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry, Italian speaker. Sorry, Linda. Sorry, Annie. And for those of you who are in the Art at Work program, you're going to notice I'm going to start sending out some materials that you can send to your colleagues that are particularly designed to get them to engage with our classes. So there's a little contest going out in next week's newsletter. You'll see it. We're going to create a program called, within Art at Work, called So You Think You Can't Draw. Designed to get the people who are afraid to start. So start looking at more materials and marketing. So are we ready to start thinking about how to paint this?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if I can do anything with this big brush. So normally I would tell you to go dark to light, right? But in this particular case, because it's important that we preserve the light, I'm getting my big brush. Can you see it? Yep. My big brush wet with yellow and a little bit of orange. Hello, lady. Oh, there you are. Okay. And
What is the paper size?
what's that? Mine's 5x7. Some people are very good.
No, I'm saying you're using that brush. No, that's why I thought you were
You know,
using
it's
a.
hilarious, right? This is I didn't promise it would work, but I do promise to make it entertaining for you all. So I just noticed that there's this blue on my. So I'm coming in here and I'm kind of going. I'm trying to work around the shadows as much as possible. Although if I get in a little bit, that's okay. Here, and I'm going with kind of a yellow orangey color because I want this to be very vibrant. And I know if I start mixing, once I start mixing with other colors, so you see what I mean? Yeah, this is pretty funny, isn't it? And it's okay if I kind of get into the upper layers. Just seeing if there's any other. And I kind of get into the shadows a little bit because I can cover those up with dark. There we go. So if I do this with a little brush like this one, here's a good one. So if I try to do the same thing with a little brush, look at what I do. I leave a mark on either edge. So I'm trying to cover that, like I can, but trying to cover this amount of space and not getting all these little random chalky marks can be really annoying. So you're gonna take orange and yellow, some nice combination. And I think that's it. Well, I might be able to do something. Let's see what happens. I might be able to get the first layer in with my big brush. This is a fantastic brush, like if you're working kind of big and you want to get those first layers in. It was really expensive, but. And I interestingly don't use it very often. I used it for a class, but I don't tend to on my own use it very often.
So it's good for big washes, right?
Yeah, and like kind of covering the area with it. It makes my point that the bigger your brush, the less your mark making, right? Like the less you have to deal with these kind of little mark making. Let's see. I may not be able to get this in. So I think this is probably an issue like where you want to add some. I may have missed my ability to get this in. So go lighter if you can on this layer. We'll see. Here's my little lady. I think you guys are really going to enjoy Emma's class next week.
Oh,
Don't worry, Sandra. If she does good, I'll bring her back. Guys like her, I'll bring her back. I have to pay her every time, so that will be my gift to you. Yeah.
We have a class on Friday by Emma.
What? Oh, you.
Sorry, I missed the.
Oh yeah. My Emma, who was here at the beginning of class, who is my kids teacher now, she's actually off teaching a kids class right now, is going to substitute for me next week because I need to be out of town for a memorial. So she's going to teach gouache techniques.
Yeah, you had told
So
her.
you're welcome to use, if you can't get your hands on gouache, you can just use watercolor and or acrylic.
I
Right?
have a new set of gouache and I've
there
been,
you go.
I won't use it.
Rosh down here in the WhatsApp thread, she's going to do this owl for you guys next week. She's going to walk you through. I'll just re-push it up. She's going to do this guy for you. I told her to do an animal.
Nice.
And she's very gifted. I mean, Emma came to me at 12, very gifted. So there's no question. She's super good. And then on Thursday night, so if you want to catch the recording on this, on Thursday night, she's going to be doing this one.
Julia, what materials do we need for our class?
What's that?
What materials do we need for our class?
Just wash and watercolor paper. So if you, but if, Tosh, if you don't have gouache, you can work with watercolor and also, or with acrylic, either one, you don't have. But what she's gonna show you is like some of the things that are troublesome about watercolor are a little bit easier to manage with gouache. Gouache is kind of a combo. Good job, Addie, that looks great. Like it. All right, so for those of you who are ready, I'm going to mix a little bit more purple. We're going to mix a bit more of that sort of muted purple. So I'm using ultramarine blue. I'm going to go a little bit darker, so I'm using alizarin crimson. You use what you got. A cool red, lots of blue in it, and a touch of yellow ochre or gamboge just to muddy it a little bit. I'm creating a pretty dark purpley color. We may go over with a different layer as we go darker to sort of enrich the dark, or you may decide you really like this purple. Okay, so there's the purple being mixed down there of those three colors. Let's see what I can do here. I'm afraid. Let's see up here. A little bit more water. Let's see what happens. Number one, this brush picked up all of what I mixed. I have to mix more. So obviously you do not have to use a color like this, but I'm going to do it just to show you how it can work. I'm afraid. All right, I'm starting with the darkest area. Oh yeah, this is nice. So up here in the sky, it's fairly dark, right? And here in these clouds, oops, I gotta be careful because I'm kind of mixing, I'm blending in a little too much with my yellow. I can kind of go in on my first layer with, yeah, I can't use this brush anymore. It's too big. I think you all get the point. Bigger brush is better. As big as you're comfortable using. And then I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna do a straight line across here.
Leah,
What?
I managed to move my appointment.
Yay! Oh, she'll be thrilled. I'll tell her.
I couldn't miss VO.
I know, it's pretty great, isn't it? I also think it's good for you guys to have like a mix, not just be learning from the same person all the time.
Well, it's nice to try a gouache. You know?
Yeah.
I got a session, but
Try somebody else, right? To try somebody else's way. Notice
just to
I'm,
try different medium.
yeah. So notice as I'm doing this, I'm kind of trying to, let's see. I'm going to the areas where it's darkest. Down like that. It's dark here because this is the island. And then down here, I'm using my corners because there's light areas. So as I'm getting in this first layer, I'm trying to pay a little attention, and when I'm getting to what do you call it? The reflection. I'm doing more horizontal strokes, using kind of more the edge of my brush. See that? I'm not doing everything right now. I'm just kind of looking at where edges need to be kind of preserved. So I'm really going to the dark, and notice this has already lightened, so you're gonna have to go back with darker layers and darken. I'm gonna come down here and layer in this. Notice I'm leaving the kind of mediums which are red based, a little bit. I'm gonna paint those with a different color. And notice I did this dark tree and this tree up here, but I did not really paint this lighter tree. So I'm saving the lighter tree so I can work on my edges.
Leah, this blue is just ultramarine blue and which color?
Purple, purple.
Okay.
So red and blue and a touch of gamboge or yellow ochre.
Yeah.
Right, and even in the areas where I know it's dark, I'm like absolutely very dark. Then I'm seeing that there's this kind of rich red. So I'm using I'm going in with cadmium red in this area here for the first layer. This medium. So you see there's kind of a medium. I probably should have laid it in up here a little bit. I'll do that a little bit here too. Cadmium red. So see how I'm kind of layering in these colors sort of next to each other. Little cadmium red in here. I know it's lighter up here. So notice, because I've layered this red in here on top of the blue, it's a little bit darker than this first layer here. That's okay. We're going to start unifying the layers. I am really appreciating the level of instruction we're able to get to in these classes. I want to really credit you guys. I can see why your colleagues are a little bit nervous about joining. We're pushing ahead really far and really fast. So if you're feeling a little bit like you're panting to catch up, that is absolutely, I'm pushing you because you can go there. So anyway.
New student wants to join.
What's that?
A new student wants to join.
A new student wants to join. Who's that?
This one.
Oh, hello. All right, here we go. Let's see Rashmi's new puppy now. We're going to add the spot. Hi. The terrorist, the little terrorist.
Is she calming down a little bit?
Yes. I mean, she has her moments. So.
Is she, because she goes out now, right? She goes out.
No, not yet. She's, I mean, she'll have a last vaccine next week.
Okay.
But
so
you can still take her out, just not where our dogs go.
Yeah, how do
I
you,
mean,
how do you
try to
decide
take
that?
her out for like 10-15 minutes and like, you know, not like, you know, not when the dogs are out. So that's
Right.
right.
Which makes me say, who let the dogs out? Whoop, 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 who let the, okay, sorry. Just
Okay.
fast. Here, hold on, I'll remove you from the spot. Sorry, I didn't mean to put the spotlight on you, Rashmi, but we share our pet, when we share our pets, we get to see the
Yes.
spotlight. Oh my God, I love the colors of this camera so much better. It's significant, isn't it? Colors are significantly better. Hello, lady. Where are you? Ruka is up in the studio loft somewhere. I can hear her milling around. So it's interesting, even on this layer, which is fairly rough, look at where the painting is most compelling. It is most compelling where I have a light, the darkest area meets the lightest area. Can you see down here, it's kind of meh because they're lighter. Up here, it's a little bit meh because this really isn't dark enough. But in this area where I just happen to have a lot of paint on my brush and my dark got really dark, look at how compelling these edges are and this light dark kind of contrast. See that, so that's the thing that's the most important to think about as you're, this is where our eye goes to here, right? So as we're working our edges, our eye moves sort of away from areas like this or here because they're too flat. The contrast isn't great enough, and so it's an interesting to note where our eye goes as we start to look at things. I know this needs to get a bit oranger. Maybe I can get there, maybe I can. I know I need to get a little bit darker up in here, but I'm going to be able to do that on my next layers. Yes, so starting in September, I'm going to start creating a series of workshops called So You Think You Can't Draw. They will be scheduled throughout the month, and they're really geared towards the people in the Art at Work program who are feeling shy about joining. As well, I'm going to start putting out some little exercises in some of our weekly newsletters. So there's one coming out this week called So You Think You Can't Draw. And I would really encourage you to forward it to every colleague. Oh, hello. Where are you? Where'd you go? Okay. I'll introduce you guys. I'll introduce those of you who don't know. Here's Muka. Here, I'll add the spotlight.
Hi, Mocha.
There she is.
She must be happy to be with you without a little brat.
Exactly, without the brat. Exactly. You know, she's been a long time with me, and she's used to like living in like one room. Like I've had a lot of studio apartments over the years, and you know, with a lot of paintbrushes around. So it's actually fairly normal for her to come in and mill around in the studio, in the garage with me. I remember I lived in this one apartment in Armenia, which is where I adopted her, where like there was just literally, it was just a studio. And she would get, and I was working with pastel a lot. So she was often different colors, like she'd get pink and yellow and orange. Obviously she's 14 now, so obviously has lived through.
It's good to know it didn't affect her, you know, because sometimes I worry about that.
Yeah, it didn't affect her. And I lived on this fourth floor flat, an old brick building with a little ledge. And she didn't go out then, but I would leave the window open. And one day I came home and I saw her shinnying around the edge on this little tiny ledge, like 4 feet up from the window to the neighbors. So like you go to the neighbor's house, like, you know, I don't know, if a person was doing it, you'd have to be flat against the wall. Of course, cats are miraculous that way. Anyway, she's had many adventures, Armika. Let's see. Oh, Anik, lovely. This will be great for building. And I like how you preserved some of the lights in here, those light shapes. Lovely. All right, so then your job now is to kind of build up your dark layers. So you can do this a couple of ways. I'm going to experiment with mixing a different color. I'm going to mix my favorite dark, which is ultramarine blue and burnt umber. So it has a different texture and a look. As I start building my darks up, my top layers, and as I come in here, you see, we're thinking more about, so my reflections have a kind of like soft edge that's this, I'm using the tip of my brush. Oh, sorry, here, let me remove me so you can really see what I'm doing. So I've got, oops, there we go. So I've got the tip of my brush. You can see I'm kind of skipping over a little bit, right? Reflections have this horizontal, using the edge kind of thing. And I can see also I need to get in with it with more red, darker red. I might add a little bit of crimson in, because this needs to be darker too, but a different color. So you see how I'm kind of drifting this in. I'm still, this is a medium to dark area, so I won't notice it in the same way. I'm going to notice the bright transitions. Kind of brighten it a little bit. You can see, so I'm kind of going from dark to light and light to dark. I'm going to add bits of this up top too. So I think wash is going to be great, because I think wash, you're going to be likelier to be able to lay some of these lighter colors on top of your darks. You have a little bit more. And notice if I have a color on my brush, I'm kind of moving it around all the places that it is. So it's also kind of up here a little bit. Right here. So now it's just getting your darks in. I think I like that ultramarine blue and burnt umber, so I think I'm gonna add it more in, because I feel like it gets a better dark. So see how I'm just continuing going over one to the other, dealing with these reflections is pretty easy actually. It's more like, and I can see this. Now my spaces get a little bit bigger, so I have a little bit of dark shapes in here, but you see how I'm letting them skip a little bit. That's probably all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do much more than that. This is definitely jumping out. I'm taking advantage of the fact that my piece is kind of straight up and down, so I know some things are going to grip into that. That's okay for me. I'm working on right now this transition from two transitions. The transition from the dark purpley brown to the medium red, and then a little bit these edges where the light comes in. And then you have a lot of options. I know I'm talking really strongly about hard and soft edges, but as you guys can see from what you're putting in, you have a lot of options on how to create, how exactly your soft edges are going to look. This area down here, which is, let's see, the island is here, right? But here, we've lost the edge of the island because it just kind of comes into the shadow. It gets a little bit. I'm looking at the tree shapes a little bit more. And here, I'm kind of doing more of a, see how I'm letting more of the background kind of come in? And then, so all of this is a way, this is a fantastic, I didn't even realize how fantastic this was for talking about edges. It's fantastic. Now I'm doing this kind of combination of the corner of my brush. See how I'm now kind of, as I'm layering in my darks, I'm like, even in this fairly solid tree, which is solid in the middle, it's kind of softer on the outside. The other thing about watercolor is it's fast. It kind of forces you to go fast because of that, because it dries so fast. So, you know, you got to get it on fast and cover it up fast. It just forces fastness. Now here, it's a little bit lighter at the top than it is at the bottom. And then I'm still not really dealing with the other reflections yet. I want a little bit more time. And then I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I did in the water up in the sky. I know, I always make it sound easier, right? It's one thing to just, I'm like, now here, just layer in all these. This is where the struggle is. I kind of want you to be aware of what the expectation, so look at, see this little bright comes out as more bright once I get darker around it. So I'm going to try that same thing here. Let's see what happens. So I come around here. Yeah, see how my red starts to read as a little bit brighter, and that's because I'm coming around with dark. And I'm working on those light edges. The trickiest one is where dark meets this light orangey. You're going to work on that for a while. It's okay. And now I feel like I have too many brush strokes going horizontally. So now I'm adding in some vertical strokes and kind of going over some of those horizontals. See that? See that I have a little bit more variation in mark making. Going back and forth, horizontal, vertical. I also don't want everything to be too much the same. Our brain wants to create patterns where there are none. Our left brain, I should say, wants to create patterns, rules, you know, because we get overwhelmed by the detail otherwise. I may have gone a tad dark here, but we'll see what we can do about that. Let's see. Oh, Addie, that's looking lovely. Your water looks great, honey. Don't worry about it. I would go over with darkers here, sort of darker purples here where those lighter blues are, but otherwise it looks pretty good. Love. You got your red stripe in here pretty nicely. I think better than I did. I think it's very dramatic. I like it. So now you're just going to keep on darkening, right? You're just going to keep on going.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And let's see, I'm going to see if I can get in a little bit more medium tone. So now I'm coming here where the edges, whoops, where my red edges are meeting to try and add a little bit more medium color before we transition to light. Here I may not succeed in doing this. Yeah, a little bit. And I actually have some orange, so I'm going to try orange watercolor. I want to go light over my yellow. I also want to make sure my water, I might actually switch my water up at this point, clean it out, because I'd like to work some of these lights into the darks. Oh, by the way, you can also use, you can also use like, try experimenting with a paper towel or a rag, right? Pull off some of the water while it's still wet. Scrub out some of those hard lines. Yeah, that creates some neat texture too. I'm gonna switch my water out right now. Hi, baby. And so you'll notice I started with the yellow and orange so that I didn't have any blue mixed into my paints. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to clean out. I'm now actually cleaning out the area. So notice I have my paints mixed in separate areas so that they don't mix with each other. I do want some of my areas to not have purple. I want some of them to have kind of oranges and yellows. Yeah, there we go. So I can kind of blend in. I like this orange, but I think it needs a bit of red. Let's be a little, yeah, there we go. That's nice. So I added a little bit of cadmium red to this pre-mixed orange. So I believe that's kind of more. And then notice this red is kind of coming in. I'm actually pulling it in over my medium and this edge here, kind of give a little continuity. I might have gone too dark. If I pull it too dark, there we go. I just used my paper towel to pull off a little bit. Let's try it again. A little bit more pretty orange. So I'm bringing this kind of reddy orange in over my red medium, so it's got a little bit richer. I'm going to bring a little bit of this red orange in to these lighter shadows here. So there's stopping about here. And then I'm going to go in with some of the dark on top. Right on top of that. So I have this kind of medium reddy layer. Yeah, that's nice. I also can see that a little bit here, there's a little bit of, even though I've got these tree trucks that are going, vertically, some bits of reflection are always going horizontal. So I'm combining. One of the things I didn't do a great job of getting was capturing this yellow bit. So I'm actually going to try and lay in some tubed yellow paint. Here, we'll see. Flip it upside down. Here's my yellows. I've actually poured some yellow paint out. I've got this very light pale yellow, which I'm actually mixing with a touch of white. Sometimes this works with the tube, and I'm gonna lay it down to see, can I get it in here? May not work. No. It's not working super well. So there is this, I'm gonna have to accept that I might not, well, it's working a little bit up here. So you'll notice I'm not really using any water. I'm just using kind of the tube paint, that's sort of wet, semi-wet tube paint, to try and get a little bit of an edge in here. It's semi-successful. It's not completely successful. Bring with a little bit more orange to see what happens. Kind of on top. So it's a little edgy game we're playing here. Game of edges. Can always go darker with my darts. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Yeah, so I actually went over with some orange over, because I went a little too dark, my upper layers. I went over with some orange kind of in the edge, which is a little bit darker than my yellow, the edge where the purple meets the yellow. And notice what happens. Now I have this kind of nice, I want to make sure it doesn't go down too far. This kind of nice edge, the transition from this kind of medium orange down to a darker yellow. That works. Your lightest area should be kind of in here. As you can see, because the sun is coming down here, I kind of missed it up here, but I managed to preserve it down here. So this is the lightest area, and then everything else just kind of gets gradually darker. Let me send a picture of it. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, nice, Addie. Isn't that beautiful? So Addie, maybe work the edges where you're, see how this is almost like a little triangle of dark here?
Yeah.
So, and that's because there's a lost edge here, right? So the island is here and the reflection is here. But here, when we go back this direction, we lose the island.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, nice. Beautiful, so fun. You guys are doing great. We have another half hour to work on this. So, um, ooh, Raj, I'm really liking the, just keep bringing in your darks down here. This is,
Yeah.
love, aren't you, aren't these pretty? Aren't you liking
Yeah.
colors? And now here, up here, of course, right, that's too hard an edge.
Hmm.
You wanna, and it's kind of arching up in a weird way that clouds don't really do.
Yeah.
Kind of comes straight across and the edges are more subtle. So just start to bring your dark down here a little bit more. But very nice. I like how your reflections are looking. Addie, fun. Yeah. So Addie, go ahead and add in a little bit of orange maybe here around the edges while keeping this little area light right in the center. You get a little bit darker around these outer edges. I mean, you guys don't have to do anything I say. Just like suggesting. I also know that everybody's piece is going to look different, right? Based on the materials you're using, based on the brushes that you're using, based on how you make your marks, right? Which is very different from person to person. So it's a balance. Oh, that's lovely, Ani. Lovely. I'd say go darker in here. You can go darker with these guys.
Yes. I think like a third or fourth even
Yeah,
layer.
yeah, just go dark. And on my top layers, I mix burnt umber and ultramarine blue. And you can see the purple still comes through, but it's a little bit richer dark. So I use a bit of brown on that top layer, and that really helps achieve the darkness.
All right.
Lovely. Is this helpful, you guys? Like particularly based on last week's lesson? I just wanted to follow up and make sure, we were thinking about this in the right way.
I find it very helpful, to be honest. These exactly soft edges in watercolors.
It's a challenge.
It is.
It's not easy. It's not easy. So I'm not like I said, with painting, I've used this expression a lot. If you know how to knit, you'll know there's two basic knitting moves. There's knitting and there's purling, right? You knit, you purl, you knit, you purl, you combine this. With painting, there are two types of brush strokes. There are hard edges and there are soft edges. You knit, you purl, hard edge, soft edge. And trying to determine which is which and how to get that with your brush, it's a practice. That's the practice of painting, is using that tool to make those edges. For some people, it's easier to work with a pencil or a handheld tool like that to do that kind of work than it is to do it with a brush. For some people, the brush is the more obvious choice. So it just depends on, now it doesn't mean everybody can't do everything, but you'll notice your affinity for the tool. But everything is a tool and we need to learn how to make that tool work. Oh, sorry, Addie. Oh, wow, Addie, how do you feel about it? Do you love it?
I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Good. I love it. You can just keep working the little edges up here. you can keep blending in you can keep layering in darks. You can keep working on this to work your edges. So I would say just keep, you have these lovely dark reds. You'll notice mine are a little bit less intense, but you want to make sure you don't have any hard edges around them, right? So bring in those darks and around those reds, same down here. Nice work. You can just keep going. You know, honestly, you could just keep doing it forever. Here, I'll show you guys another example. I'm working on one of those shaggy dogs with like hair everywhere.
So let's see. These are hard to do.
I'll show you because I'm in the middle of it and I need to sort of integrate it a little bit more. So here he is. And then
Oh, wow.
right? So you can see kind of down here, I lost my edges. Can you see that? It's a little too, so it's this challenge of finding like I've got to come back in and add these darks in more bigger chunks, less, right? I need a little bit of that feeling of this is a little bit too light. I need to sort of block. What I really need to do is work this edge where there's a little bit more strength to it, so that it doesn't look like he just disappears in it's cute though, isn't it?
It's very cute.
Very cute.
These dogs are like so hard to paint. Diana just did one. I know.
Very hard. I've never attempted one yet because they look so hard.
Exactly. That's why I wouldn't be able, because I would be laughing all the time. And because the expression of their faces are like, you know, it's ridiculous.
Diana's one was particularly funny because he had like a bun, like a samurai on top of its head.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah, at least that one had hard edges. Like it had these weird little things. But this one is just pure, you know, raggediness. And so you can see, like I said, where the work needs to happen. To go back in and making sure I'm working all my edges to make sure there's some areas of like kind of harder. Although this is not a hard edge, it's a harder edge. This is not a hard edge, but this shape is important. It's not a hard edge exactly, but it's harder. So I need to be, I'm kind of looking here. Oh, do I have the chin pulled out, right? How's that going? So Addie, is your sister taking a class with Emma right now?
Yeah, she is.
How many computers do you have in your house?
Well, actually, a lot. We've got like 5.
Right.
One for each child and one for my dad.
Great.
My mom has her phone.
Huh.
And what
Yeah.
about your mom?
She has a
And
phone.
she just uses her phone and
Oh.
her wallet.
You know, I know people who don't own a laptop who just use their phone, particularly Apple users, it seems like, because the Apple phone is so computer-like. Less if you've got a Samsung. I couldn't do
Yeah.
it. All right, and I'm going to do the fun reveal here. If you have taped the edges, you can, right now you can see the kind of ragged edges. Then when you pull the tape off, it's painting. It's an instant painting. All of a sudden, I put this on the website because I like how it looks. I might work it a tiny bit more, but it's easy to overwork things. But look what happens when you pull off the tape. It's like the final, so satisfying. I like to use this artist tape. It's called, I think it's called artist tape. Yep, it's called artist tape. And it's white, and when you pull it off, it doesn't pull off the paper, right? It's easy to take on and off.
It's really hard to go lighter. So you want to work on, I like a good rule of thumb is lighter rather than.
You can hear Emma teaching right now. Emma,
So how I do my mic.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mute myself.
perfect. Thanks. Thanks, Patty. I think when you come from a family of 4 like Addie does, you just get used to, oh, Annika, okay, so that's starting to get there. So Annika, you got to get way darker down here, right? Way darker. And build in some of these dark shapes on top. So leave some of those reds, that red that you've got down here, the value that it is, and go in with darks in this kind of shape, right? So go in with the super darks. Oh yeah, that's turning out well. Oh, you guys, these are looking great. Oh, Anik, yeah, nice. Nice how those darks, it's so interesting. Oh, Linda, that's lovely. It's lovely. You might want to darken a little bit more heavily in this corner at the top, Linda.
Okay.
And the reason is that as we kind of move up in skies get darker. So I feel like if you get a bit darker up in this corner, less of this stuff kind of come into here with some of your blue.
Mhm. Makes sense. Yes. Thank you.
But it's lovely. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, a lot. I've been missing it because I was, almost a month off to Italy with no internet connections.
How was Italy? How was Italy? Did you have a good time? Your parents good?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I spent some time with my family and relaxed a bit, so it was nice. Yeah.
For you. Ah, Sunny, so Diana, we didn't hear the end of this story. Did you take her to the vet last night or not?
No, I didn't because her lips were starting to go back and she was able to drink water. So I did not. I took her to bed with me. So she slept in my bed and Frank slept in the guest bed.
By the way, Diana, I think I once took my cat because of something like this, and they prescribed like something like Benadryl.
Oh.
If you gave them something to just reduce the swelling, but you never know because she's a puppy, right? So
I still give a low dose, but I mean, the cat is even smaller than a puppy.
Yeah, so Benadryl, that's a good idea. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I suspect it was a bee sting.
There's not. I once took my tiger because he suddenly had like a double size of a paw.
Yeah.
And he almost did this every year. Like he caught some stinging thing. And we spent like several $100 and several hours at the emergencies. And in the end, there's nothing they could do for him except to say something like Benadryl, because,
I use Benadryl too, like when the dog, if they have an allergic. Take half a pill, don't take that.
There's also some homeopathic remedy, but you need to have them and to know what they are. I think something like Ledum, maybe.
Okay, so I'm gonna buy some Benadryl in case it happens again.
Yes, because she maybe likes to chase those things. My tiger did.
Yeah, she definitely does.
well, I'm glad she's feeling better. So you kicked Frank out of bed, huh? Well, good for you.
But you couldn't all three fit in?
Right.
Well, I guess we could.
So
I wanted to keep track of her, so I didn't.
I'm still feeling a little bit of hard edges up here. I feel like it needs to get darker up here, and I feel like your edges are a little too hard.
Yeah.
Up here and down here. So I want you to work on here. Let's see if I can demonstrate this a little bit. Really pay attention here. You're kind of blending in over, right, with different colors. I take some blue, here, let me make some blue, some dark color to show you what I mean. You're gonna be blending in over the top. See how I'm doing that?
Yeah.
Right? It's still too, there's no transition between those, what's happening down here and what's happening up here. So I like the colors, I love the colors, but your brush strokes need to get a little bit more nuanced. a little bit more sophisticated, softer, you know, like a little bit softer, edges a little bit rougher, because that's really what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you guys.
Okay, nice to see you. Glad
Bye,
Yeah.
Diana.
it's
I do too.
See you Sunday.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, there's no pastel landscapes on Sunday, but there is painting class on Sunday. So come on
But
Sunday.
is
Let's
is
go.
there tomorrow as well?
Yeah, tomorrow as well. Absolutely.
I'm starting puppy class tomorrow, so I can.
Ah, right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
We want
Diana.
to see photos, please.
Yes.
And my phone
Yeah.
pretty much
You taking
I've
off?
got to go. What?
You're taking off too?
Yeah.
All right, you did great. So I hope
Thank you.
join next week for Emma's class.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. All right, kiddo.
Thank you. Bye.
Right.
This class is so, I really love you guys as a group. This is a really great group. It's so wonderful. We have kids, we've got adults, we've got puppies, we have people on 3 different continents. It's really great. I like it. The more wide the sweep, the neater it is to me. It just
Yeah,
gets,
it's also my favorite class.
yeah, it's neat. It's really,
Leah,
yeah.
Leah, should I try to blend the darker on the lighter one or the lighter on the darker one? And
Go with the darker because your darker needs to get darker. I go with the darker into the lighter.
Okay.
My paper gets so incredibly bad after layering.
Tosh, that's looking good. Nina, that's nice. Work, you know what I would do, Nina, if I were you, is get a little bit darker down here. Bring the, you notice how it's kind of washed out a little bit here? And how your trees aren't really standing out because they're not dark enough. So just go in, look at where it really works. Here, where your little back islands of trees are, and here. So work on getting darker in the places and pushing those darks so that it's lighter, the background appears lighter. So get darker in the tree, right in here. This works pretty well. And get a little bit darker in here. And you'll see that things will pop even more. I like, Nina, how you preserved that little white area. Very nicely done. Like that sun really works. Tosh, that's beautiful. Nice. Get a little bit darker up in here. Bring your dark down a little bit. If you see here, the dark comes down pretty heavily. But I like this. Look at how different these are. I love this. I feel like, oh, it's too bad. I really wanted Shilpa to be here. This is her idea. Lovely. I feel like you guys are starting to gain a little control. Oh, Shilpa's drawing her doggy.
Hmm.
Nice, Linda. Yeah. See how those darks enrich your lights? We can't have light without dark. How's that for philosophical?
But that's true.
How's that the way? Oh, wow. Okay, so it's, I mean, technically we're at the end of class, but let's go a few more minutes. Let's go 5 more minutes. I mean, if you need to leave, you can leave, but I'll go another 5 minutes.
I'll send you my dear Leah. I've not finished, but
Yeah, I really liked how the faces turned out on that, Sandra. I think you're taking your detail to faces really beautifully.
this is where I'm at now.
Oh, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Boy, you're getting, hey, Sandra, if you can jump into tomorrow's class, you'll want, did you see the goat that I posted?
Yes, and I like it, that goat, because even though we don't have a whole head and it's up close, it doesn't look skewed by the lens.
No, and it's funny, like that came off of one of the photo reference sites I belong to on Facebook, and the caption was, so this is where photographers who want to give their photos to artists, like they post them, and this one said, you've goat to paint me.
So they like it. They like to be painted.
This is looking wonderful, Sandra. Good. I like, see, you'll notice, you guys, how Sandra is building up her textures slowly. And she's got some wonderful soft and hard edges already going there. But look at how like those oranges at the top of the head drift into the grays, right? Look at the hard edges that she's got, those dark edges around the edge of the eye. Look at where she's got hard edges and soft edges. She's really, probably without even knowing what you're doing, you're like, you're learning how to make your brush do hard and soft edges. It's a nice combination.
Well, actually, I find that watercolor, if you're not mindful, you automatically get a hard edge. So I've been working hard to make the soft edges. It's hard.
It is hard.
Yes.
But I'm beginning to get the hang of how to do it. I don't always succeed, but I try. I think that's probably one of the hardest things in watercolor, along with washes, I guess.
Yes, and I think that is also like why so often you will see the watercolor like drawings, paintings, basically about the buildings and so on, because there's a lot of hard edges. And
I think one of the best ways of not getting hard edges is to do wet on wet, but it's very difficult to control.
It's hard to control. Yeah, you can get it, but it's hard to control. So I don't know. I don't know if wet on wet is my favorite way to do it. I tend to like, it's more about brush and the level of water I have. So if I'm just taking, let's see here, I'm gonna just scoop up some wet paint, right, that I just applied here. And I'm gonna make up, to me, when there's less water, it's more just paint and less water. It's easier to make a hard edge.
I haven't completely, yeah, the problem with where wet on wet is good is to do the soft edges, but I haven't quite got the hang of it.
It is, and then if it's waterier, if I add water to it like I just did, then it becomes harder. I can do it, but you can see it becomes harder to do a hard edge. So sometimes it helps. Yeah, I really wish I had gouache right now because I could totally add that little light spot in right there that I missed. And I cannot do it because I can't get the watercolor to do. So this is the, I'm gonna go in a little bit. Yep, nope, it's just not happening. You can see my paper's like, you just went too dark, lady, sorry. Sorry, Charlie. No, cigar.
And now start over.
Yeah, right. Start over. And that's the thing. So now I have to decide. In my view, it's not really spoiled that I don't have it, but I really wish I kept it. Right. So this is how you learn as you go through. Like if I really, watercolor. Oh yeah, that doesn't look very good. That's like too. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, much better. Notice I did this little edge of darks kind of here on the edge where light meets dark. There's a few like kind of waves, but I'm not doing too many, but I did take a little bit because there is this sort of edge as like the dark kind of waves kind of come into the light area. That is a nice kind of finishing touch. Oh, Linda, that's wonderful. Jeez, fantastic. Wow, holy shit. Right, aspirations. Wow.
Beautiful.
That's gorgeous. I'm glad. How much did it cost you, out of curiosity? Was it cheap or was you don't have to say exactly, but was it expensive or?
Actually, I bought it together with some others, so in the end it came for free. But that was €10. It's not very big. It's like a small format.
It's insane. All that skill in 10 years. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, it's sort of frustrating for artists to try and charge what they're actually worth, what it learns, what it takes to be able to do that, the years, the skill, experience, and it goes for €10.
Yep.
I'm not bitching because you got yourself a great deal there, but
No, but we were talking with this artist a lot, and I actually wanted to give her full price because she told me that she's, well, I mean, the tourism is basically gone in Italy. So she's struggling with that, as I think she was selling mainly to tourists. So yeah, but in the end she kind of insisted. But it was kind of nice because I saw her doing this exact painting while I was passing by to go to a museum, and then I went back to see if it was still there because I liked it so much. So.
That's good. You supported an artist. That's really important to put your dollars in that direction. Very important.
Or your euros, for that matter.
Yeah, you're filthy lucre. How's that?
Your hard-earned cash.
Filthy lucre. I have a friend who calls, I know somebody who calls money filthy lucre. And I was thinking how, like, during COVID, like, I knew people who didn't even want to touch money physically. Like, it became.
A lot of places banned cash in the States, at least.
Yeah. Because it's filthy lucre. All right, you guys, I'm going to pull up the spotlight.